Yes. I wasn't supposed to have my credential on. Rolling.
Paul Goydos, 2 under 69. Great playing out there, Paul. Can you talk us through your round?
Yeah, you know, raining right from warming up. You know, I'm from California. This is more rain than we've had in 10 years. It seems like we need this. You know, over there. And I'm really not a big fan of playing in the rain. I'm the guy who wants to play in domed golf courses and the whole 9 yards. And I, you know, starting on 10, I hit a good shot on 10. And got it on the green and had a good 2-putt. And 11, which is going to be a tough green to putt all week, I hit my first putt maybe 8 feet by and made it coming back. And I think if I don't make that putt, I probably shoot 75, and we're not talking here. You know, you kind of get in a bad mood and it's raining and whatnot. And then 14, par 12, 13, Cole couldn't have played any longer. I couldn't hit a better drive, and I could not have hit a better 5-wood on the front of the green. It had a 60-footer and made it. And then the next hole, I hit it in the front right bunker and made that. And so all of a sudden, I know the weather's tough and it's playing hard, and I'm having every good possible thing is happening. I made the putt on 11, I've holed a long putt on 13, and I've holed a bunker shot on 14. You know, at that point, the world is smiling at me. And then you know, I will admit that the rain kind of let up a touch for around the turn, and I made some good solid pars, made a good birdie on 1. Drove it in the rough on 5, which is you just can't do in the rain. You can't do it anyways, but in the rain it's that much worse. You know, I just basically had a pitch out and made a good bogey there, and then came in with 4 really good. Made a good par putt on 7, but really every hole out there, you know, maybe you see birdies on the par 5s, maybe you're seeing a birdie on 10, but that's it. There aren't any birdie holes out there that I could see. You know, if it stays playing this hard, and the rain obviously makes it play harder to some extent, I would think even par at the end of the week is going to be an awfully good score.
Yeah, and the weather is supposed to change. A lot of California sunshine in the next 3 days. How do you think the course is going to change?
Well, I mean, I don't know how warm it's going to be. It's probably going to dry out a little bit, but this soaking rain's not helping that. So the golf course is going to play long, probably the entire week. The greens will be quasi-receptive, but they're being receptive on these greens almost isn't necessary. You know, there's a lot of ups and overs here, so it's kind of be nice to land it in the lower part and bounce it over to the back. Can't do that now. I think the golf course, I mean, you would expect, and what do I know, that maybe with the forecast, the course might have been set up a touch easier today. And if this is easier, then holy hell, you know, it's going to be a long weekend.
First question.
Paul, Bo Colton and I work with local news station here. It's just for the people watching at home that are not big golf fans or don't know the intricacies of the game. Why is it so much harder, or why is it harder in the rain compared to when it's dry?
Well, the biggest advantage in the rain is having a really good caddy. This is where caddies earn their money. There wasn't a single shot I hit today where my golf clubs were wet. The grips. I never felt like there was a drop of water in between my hand and the grip, and when there is, you tend to not grip it as well. You tend to have a different feel. It tends to get slippery, and all of those things. So, you know, Chris did a fantastic job. It's just hard to grip the club. I mean, if it's just drizzling here and there, it rained pretty steadily for 4 hours, and when it gets to that point, everything gets saturated, and your clubs can get really slick if your caddy isn't on top of things, and Chris stayed on top of things, and most great caddies out here do. But that's the thing that's the hardest.
Okay. Great, thank you.
The course plays longer too, obviously. The rough is harder to hit out of. It grabs your club more. It's wet. It's heavier, and the golf course plays 2 clubs longer every hole. There are holes where you're hitting 9 irons, and then now I'm hitting 7 irons and things like that.
Thank you.
Question over to your right.
Hey, Paul. Obviously, the weather was pretty miserable. Did you have any problems at all with focus, or were you managed to keep
at 58 years old, you always have problems with focus. That's just part of the deal of playing the Champions Tour or senior golf. No, in that sense, I would actually argue the opposite. The bad weather tends to keep you a little more focused. You get very micro-focused on what's this next shot. You know, especially, and again, you get that a little bit more here. Every once in a while, you're playing a golf tournament, you got a 50-yard wide fairway, and you know you may be at 90% instead of 100%. The USGA doesn't allow that. Their golf course setup is to penalize the guy that loses that little bit of focus. And I would say the weather kind of makes it a little bit easier to make sure you're there on each shot.
Right. And one other question I had was, what are your impressions of the golf course? I know you
It's
played
hard.
Hard.
It's just hard. I mean, again, I was a little. They moved a few tees up today, but not many. It's long, and it's got difficult greens. I mean, I don't know what else, and it's got a lot of rough. I would say this is as thick a rough as I've played in a senior U.S. Open, and this is my 7th or 8th one.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a hard golf course, and again, unless something funny happens, again, I think even par's gonna be a pretty good score. Playing the back nine on Sunday.
Go back over to your left here.
You've been playing pretty well your last 3
like ping
tournaments.
pong here.
Anything that's kind of come together in your game?
Yeah, I've hit the ball nicely. I think I hit a lot of fairways and a lot of greens today. I might have missed a couple of fairways and 3 or 4 greens. I'm not sure exactly. So that's been good. So I mean, to me, the better you hit it, this is going to sound counterintuitive, the easier it is to play away from the flag. So to me, if I know I'm hitting it where I'm looking on a tucked pin, it's much easier for me to hit the ball in the middle of the green and accept the 30-footer, which a USGA is another thing the USGA kind of demands of your game. When you're struggling tee to green a little bit, you aim at the middle of the green, you don't know which way you're going to miss it sometimes, so it's harder to aim in the sense to play safer. I don't know if that, it's counterintuitive.
Right.
But the better I hit it, the easier it is for me to play safer, for lack of a better word. And so I came in feeling pretty good about my game. Things have been, and again, part of that is just things are working out. I hold the bunker shot today. I make the 60-footer. I do the things to kind of keep the rounds going. I make the putt on 11 instead of miss the putt on 11. When things aren't going well, those 3 things don't happen, and I shoot 75. It's just kind of, I'm on a pretty good run. Maybe I have, and just things are working out for me, and I'm taking advantage of that. And that's really it. I've driven the ball well. Like I said, I think I hit it in the shortcut once and hit in the long stuff once today, I think. But when it gets wetter, it does play wider, for lack of a better word.
Right.
But I'm just kind of doing everything okay, and that's really what I need to do.
You mentioned 11. 11, when that gets drier, how much tougher will that green get?
Yeah, I mean, it's not often that I've sat and played a practice round. We played it twice, played each 9 twice, that I couldn't figure out where the pin was going to be. I really couldn't find a spot that wasn't going to cause a backup. And when we were the morning off at 10, there was almost they were just teeing off when we walked up to the tee, and I would imagine that's going to continue. Hey, it's these old school golf courses have that. They were built when the greens were not 8 or 9 on the stip meter, not 11 on the stip meter. And I there's a piece of me that really likes that. We used to go on tour and play Westchester, and they had some crazy greens. It makes you think, it makes you good shots, and it makes you. Sometimes bogey's good. Sometimes 3 putting's okay. So it's a different kind of test. We keep thinking about testing your driving or your iron play, your putting. This USGA tends to test your ability to cope with problems, the ability to cope with what may seem unfair or may not seem right, may not, the definition of unfair would be moving the pin for each group. They're not. They're keeping, and so. They do a good job on these courses of testing all facets of the game, including, how well you cope with, how well you problem solve. And that's an important part of what we do. And that green's going to be 4 days of problem solving. What can I do here?
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Paul.